Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Saturday, December 3rd, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys, starting with some gaming preamble. There is a mech-based shooter that will be available for the PlayStation VR called Starblood Arena. And it looks to be action-based mech game. It's no secret, I've said it many times, for me, the game still missing from VR, well, there's a few, but near the top of my list would be MechWarrior Mercenary meets MechWarrior 2 meets Elite Dangerous. That would be the ultimate. An RPG action-based mech game with slow ambling mechs with different weapons you can upgrade, mechs you could upgrade, being able to trade, do missions. Oh man, that would just be amazing. Somebody's going to come up with it, I hope. For now, Starblood Arena, a little bit more on the action side, but that's okay. For the PlayStation VR, I've included a link, shows video of some of the gameplay, namely Team Deathmatch and Battle Royal modes. But looks really good. Next up, we have Mare, which is a gorgeous looking VR adventure from an ex-Last Guardian artist. And if it looks kind of like a familiar art style, that would be because Rui Guerrero, who is the sole developer for Mare, was part of the famous team Ico, and they had a pretty unique art style, thanks in no small part to him. Mare is roughly 50% complete. It's going to be launching on the Oculus Rift. No firm date, but yeah, take a look at the video. Personally, I think that type of an adventure game with a very atmospheric art style like that looks fantastic. Definitely going to try that out. And then lastly, on the gaming front, Resident Evil 7, which is going to be coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR January 24th, 2017, has a demo that's going to be going up later tonight. I believe it's a VR-capable demo. If it is, I'm going to be trying it here, and I'll fill you guys in. But you know what? Wave-based games, I've said I'm a little tired of those. I'm okay with zombie, though. I'm okay with zombie pretty much anytime, as long as it's kind of survival horror, freeform, not wave-based, which this doesn't look to be. So that's good. News-wise, Kent Bai, who has some fantastic podcasts on Road to VR, he's got another doozy. This time with Hassan Karauni, who is one of the co-founders of the Rabbit Hole VR group at Stanford. And that group has some really deep, cool discussions on virtual reality, the past, the present, but mostly projecting forward into the future, the types of things virtual reality is going to be able to deliver. And he gets into some of that with Kent Bai. And it's just a really, really cool discussion. A lot of these things we've kind of touched on this channel from time to time. They start with the obvious, that VR is able to transport you to places you might not otherwise be able to visit. And then they start getting into VR as being, a lot of people call it the final medium. But we've heard that term, thrown around a lot with other things. The final frontier. Once upon a time, that was the New World. Then it was Alaska. Then it was space, the moon, etc., etc. The final frontier is constantly being pushed further out, right? And it's no different with mediums like radio, movies, TVs, virtual reality. And that's when they get into the really cool stuff, when they start talking about neural inputs, right? Or implants, the ability to tap into dream states, put us into worlds that literally feel as real as our waking world. When you have those dreams that are so lifelike, you wake up and you kind of have a pause to just reflect on it. Maybe it's in relief because it was scary as hell, etc. I have those from time to time. And to be able to tap into that would absolutely, well, we'd probably call it the final medium, but that really wouldn't be either, because we're constantly one-upping and pushing it further out. But the one that they leave pretty much for last, right near the end of the podcast, Hassan brings up what he would love to see. And it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, our children's, or our grandchildren's, but the concept, the thought of being able to recreate the entire world virtually and then rerun it from any previous point in history, purely as a simulation study. Do we end up with World War II? Is Pearl Harbor attacked? Is nuclear technology invented? If so, the same time each time we rerun that simulator? How do the events vary? Do we ever have a world that, ends up in nuclear Armageddon? Does that crisis with Cuba maybe escalate out of control? Just all those cool hypotheticals. That would be absolutely awesome. It's mind-blowing to think about that. And then, of course, they do the red pill, blue pill with, or are we already living in a simulation? Which really is discussion for a standalone show. So we'll leave it at that. Next news piece, Google Daydream. Lots of their marketing seems to be focused on the aesthetic. And that's okay. I mean, Apple has spent a great deal of its existence, focusing on aesthetics. Why should it be any different for VR? They've announced a crimson red and white Daydream View HMD that will begin shipping December 8th. So if aesthetics are your thing and you've been looking forward to a crimson red HMD, now's your opportunity. Next up, Deepak Chopra predicts the ends of medicine, or the end of medicines with the start of the VR era. Now, I'm somebody who generally, runs my life, via evidence, scientific method. Those things are very important to me. But I'd like to think I'm still open-minded. And while I agree that it can replace some things, I don't think it's going to mean the end of medicines. I mean, medicines kind of come to their own end at times. If you're looking at antibiotics and kind of the misuse of those over the last few decades, we are perilously close to antibiotic-resistant bacteria being kind of the standard scenario. I don't think it's going to replace stuff like that. But what about phobias? We've talked about that multiple times. Absolutely. Do I think virtual reality can assist in the treatment of phobias? Arachnophobia, agoraphobia, the list goes on. As VR gets more and more immersive, the ability, I think, to treat various phobias is only going to improve. And, other things like that public speaking, I talked about that a week or so ago. There's lots of things that VR will be able to assist in, but is it going to replace anti-cancer medication? Probably not, right? But still a cool thought and definitely some validity to aspects of it. Next up, will VR technology change marketing forever? This comes to us via entrepreneur.com. And what I liked about this article is how it got me thinking about marketing just in general with mediums, like before virtual reality. Probably one of the most powerful things in marketing was the jingle. So with movies, when they started getting sound, radio, television, the jingle was a powerful marketing tool. And it's widely recognized that one of the first jingles is the Wheaties jingle, which many of the elderly to this day could still recite every single line from. If I think back to my own childhood, being a Gen Xer, this was before 24-hour Cartoon Networks. Saturday morning was the morning to wake up. Me, my brother, for many of you, your siblings, we'd wake up Saturday morning, get some toast, some breakfast cereal, and watch cartoons from about 6 a.m. until our parents kicked us out to go play outside. But those were awesome, nostalgic memories. And those cartoons were interspersed with a metric crap ton of commercials. And some of those, you got it, breakfast commercials. There's one to this day I remember every single word of, despite it being an American-only cereal that I believe to this day still isn't available here in Canada. Or you know what? Maybe it has started appearing. Anyways, it's Apple Jacks. And I'm not going to sing the jingle, but it was A is for Apple, J is for Jacks, cinnamon toasty Apple Jacks. You need a good breakfast, like every kid should. Gee, those Apple Jacks sure taste good. Just to kind of relay the power of a jingle, right? Look at the Gilligan's Island theme song. There's people who've never watched the show that can sing that entire song. And yes, I can. Every word of it still 30 some odd years later. So yeah, will VR technology change marketing? Absolutely. We've got those additional components now, empathy, deeper rooted emotions that marketers can evoke. You know, deeper immersion with the product, whether that's bringing you closer to the product or the product closer to you. There is all kinds of potential for VR marketing, and whatever your stance is on commercials, yes, they are going to be able to market a whole new way once they start harnessing, those aspects of virtual reality. Next up, the old what happens when virtual reality affairs get real. And this comes to us via catchnews.com. It's a bit of a sensationalist headline, I agree, but let's just talk about it for a bit. Now, currently, I don't think anyone is under the illusion that you can have an affair with somebody. Well, I suppose on the emotional level you could in virtual reality, but the physical manifestation of an affair still eludes, the person looking to cheat. That is not there yet. But like I said, via the emotional connection that you can still establish, absolutely, it can be the catalyst for people meeting up in real life. I mean, hell, I remember EverQuest with its horrible graphics. Not at the time, but if you look back at those pea-soup textures, I remember the guild that I was in, there were quite a few couples, more than just one, two or three that I remember, that, started a relationship online, ended up meeting in real life, and then more than just hooked up, they actually stayed together. And a few of those to this day are still together. You look at stuff like Second Life. Yeah, this happens all the time. What VR is eventually going to be able to do is serve as more than just a catalyst, right? More than just the emotional side of cheating. It will probably eventually get to the point where start to finish, you could have, the great majority of a relationship online, which personally, I kind of hope happens well after I have departed. All right, guys, that is it for the news today. I am looking forward to some more gaming. It's been a really crazy week. As always, cheers. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Catch you guys on the VR flip side.